Soon takusave na love emoji enjoy official name. PDA bila woga, you license ni pet. I'll buy some boxes you can share with me. Wache kuvisit wishing on me. Takuita wangu kabla witena Maulana. You're my rose but I'll still give you your flowers. Takupenda sahi na kasi sahi. Ni sasa hivi.
Nice. That was a nice snippet from our guest. And welcome back to the Portal Podcast. And this is your host, Edmond Orenge, or otherwise you can call me the Tribal Chief. So today we are going to cover a very sensitive topic about should we heal from our parental wounds to alleviate the responsibility of our future relationship. So basically what we are saying about the parental wounds, we are saying the inner child. Everyone has an inner child in them, and are they at peace? The question is, are they at peace? And if they are not at peace, how will you make it connect with your adulthood? So I think the inner child should connect with the adulthood for you to live a peaceful life and have a good mental health to live well. So today I brought you a guest, as you've seen, and she's a podcaster like me, and also talks about mental health. She will tell us more about her podcast, where she's from, and just basically what's her name, things like that. So karibu.
Asante. Hi guys. My name is Shalom or Auntie Shiro. I host the Daily Mental Podcast. You can get it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. And I'm really glad to be part of this podcast today as we talk about healing our parental wounds. I'm from Eldoret, born and raised.
So welcome to the Portal Podcast. Tunafurahi kukuona hapa na making memories with us, and I can say umenifunza mengi this short period. Tumekuwa marafiki and I wish to grow tukue marafiki wazuri sana. So about this topic about how to heal from our parental wounds, what can you say about it?
So first of all, the inner child is that part of you that still experiences memories and the things that you went through. So if you grew up and you haven't dealt with the things that hurt you back then, they will come up in your future relationships or your present relationship with other people. And family is the place where you learn about basic relationships. Ni hapo ndio you learn about basic relationships. So what happens most of the time, whatever you learn in your family, you go applying it in other relationships, or you try to avoid applying it in other relationships. For example, if your family was a healthy family, your relationships are most likely going to be healthy, and you're going to apply it there. If your family was toxic, you'll find yourself subconsciously having some toxic traits, or you'll find yourself escaping that toxicity. So you don't want to apply it. You're trying to escape what you saw in your family. And I feel like most people in this generation are carrying a lot of things. We are carrying a lot of baggage from our childhood, some things that we didn't even know are affecting our present relationships. So I think the first thing is, first you need to identify and you need to understand you might have some wounds inside you that you need to heal. Understanding and knowing is like the first step to get to heal your wounds and
uko na good mental health. So I think the people responsible for this, the people who are responsible for our childhood, the inner child of us, are our parents.
Parents.
So we are copying things from them. Tukigrow tukue poa. If you copy something negative, itakuwa like a childhood wound, na you'll carry it from there ukigrow. And you won't connect. You won't connect the adulthood and inner child.
You won't.
Because hii kuna wounds you've not healed them. Na pia huku adulthood kuna wounds.
You've not healed them.
So they won't connect.
Yeah, it's true. No, kama for women, I usually say this thing subconsciously. Women usually date men when you're gonna personalities like their fathers.
Yeah.
Subconsciously, hata ujuangi, you sit down and realize, kumbe this person has been. So it's like a mental modeling that you have no control over. So you'll find yourself getting attracted to some things. Kumbe that's your inner child expressing itself in your adulthood without you knowing.
Yeah. And you see, the deepest wounds come from our childhood.
It's true.
And they can shape you in a way like unaweza kuwa a negative person in the society.
Very true.
Because you are raised in a negative home.
Very true.
Sindio?
That's so true.
Yeah, so I think people should really make effort ya kuheal the inner child. Ndio ukifika a certain age, I think plus 18, you are an adult.
Yeah.
And you start maybe having healthy relationships.
But also the question is, how do you heal a wound from a parent? This is someone who had you.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, we didn't have a choice of coming to this world.
Yeah.
We didn't. Yeah. This is someone who had you and they hurt you. Yeah. How do you heal?
And if we had the chance to choose, kila mtu angeenda kwa positive family.
Sindio? Kila mtu angeenda kwa positive family. Hakuna mtu mwenye anachagua where they're born. So how do you get to that point where you heal wounds from your parent? A parent that has hurt you, now you're trying to heal from the hurt they've caused you.
You know, some people, what they do, they try and they disconnect from their parents.
Yeah, that happens so much.
And it's healthy. I can advise people to disconnect, but it's hard. It's healthy, but it's hard. People disconnect. Watu wanasema mimi siwezi ishi na pero wangu because inakuwa like toxic. Amuelewani kwa nyumba, kila siku ni kupigana, kugombezana. Alafu at the end unapata mna disconnect, which it happens, but I don't know a healthy way to do it to overcome. Maybe you can tell us.
You know, I think the only way you can disconnect from your parents if you are financially stable. Because if you're in school and you are a person who your parents are still supporting you, it's going to be hard to disconnect from them, because even if you move out of their house and they're the ones paying your rent, paying your fee, that's like hard to disconnect from them. For me, I think the first step in healing is accepting. Accepting that there's a problem. There's something over here that I need to heal from. Once you accept it, things are better, and then express it. If your parents are flexible, or if they're not flexible, I think we should find a point where we can talk to them and tell them, you know, as much as I'm your child and you've raised me, there's something that you did that hurt me. Hata kama atachukulia vibaya,
they'll process it, and it's better that you'll put it out there. Because I feel at this point we've grown up, we are adults. So we should, you know, the problem is most of the time our parents look at us as children and we look at them as parents, while we should be looking at each other as people. We are all people. True. I'm your child, but I'm still a person, and there are things that I go through, and also you talk to them. If they are becoming reluctant to understand you, at least you put it out there and now they know, so that thing is not inside you anymore. But you also have to find a way to talk to them in a way that is not rude, that doesn't sound like you're being proud or anything. You have to find that balance, which is hard. So as Shiro has said, try and talk to your parents. Maybe wawezi kusikia, but I know a parent ukimwambia kitu umkalishe chini, atafikiria baadaye, ataiprocess, alafu maybe later act on it. You know, this thing about the inner child is very, very sensitive.
It is.
Ukipata maybe someone akikuwa mtoto akuwa anaonyeshwa love and nini, so akiingia in a relationship, mtu akifanya the same thing, all things triggers inakuwa triggered haraka sana.
True.
With the situation that happen.
Yeah.
Akiona mbona jamaa anipendi vile? Unajua tu huyu jamaa anipendi. The actions you play in the relationship and the person will run away.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, so I think you should maybe express yourself, accept uko in that situation, accept, express, and you said what else? You have express, accept.
Yeah,
I think those two. And you'll start by that by you know utaanzia ukianza kuheal. So I think when we go to the first question.
That was the first question.
Oh, that was the first question.
Yeah, that was the first question.
And why is it important to heal your inner child?
It's important to heal your inner child so that you can go ahead forming positive relationships, positive patterns. You know, there's this quote that it's a cliche thing. I think I've said it on my podcast. If you don't heal from what cut you, you'll bleed on people who didn't cut you. If you don't deal with something right now, it will show up again to another person who didn't even hurt you. You see, you get into relationships with people and they have some kind of toxic behaviors because in the past they never got to deal with it. So when they get into new relationships, they explode. So you have to deal with something and then deal with it, heal with it, and move on so that your future relationships are better. So even with our childhood wounds, we're supposed to heal them so that when we interact with people, friends, in relationships, we're going to be better people.
Yeah, because unajua the inner child, the inner child akikuwa maybe ana take care, anakuwa anachungwa na the parent. The inner child doesn't know anything. So if the behaviors you teach the child, ndio anapika anasema this is how you're being treated. This is how akiona unachapwa alafu na you're not doing anything, atasema this is how ukichapwa unafaa kwa nyumba. Ukichapwa unafaa ulie na ukae kwa hiyo relationship. So that's what anaenda kupeleka in the relationship.
That's so true. Sindio? That's very true.
Yeah. Sasa ukikaa in a homestead where maybe ukichapwa anaji-express, that's what is coping. Ama she's coping. Ama maybe kuna love everywhere. That person will grow love everyone around them. And atakuwa in a positive relationship. Notice too anything that see love anajitoa kabisa. So that's the inner child working on you. Na lazima ziconnect na the adulthood. So I think I asked this a question on my IG and an audience alisema tu ni read this out. I have struggled with having a painful past from my childhood, and I got into university and started dating an amazing guy. Then all my past wounds started surfacing. So the boyfriend will make a small mistake, like most humans do, and I'll make a very big issue out of it. I'll start crying and start feeling my past pains, and at times pushing him away. I also keep wanting things to be perfect. I also struggle forgiving him. He begs for my forgiveness for days and days. When he does one thing wrong, I start bringing up all the other wrong things that he has done before. So I think ina happen this person alikuwa ina positive alikuwa
I think alikuwa in a negative one. Because you've ever heard of attachment styles. Attachment styles. So there are positive and negative attachment styles. Her, the way she's describing, she sounds like she has anxious attachment style. When something small happens, you make a big issue because you feel like these people are going to leave. Maybe she experienced some kind of abandonment because si amesema she had a painful experience.
So this thing is kind of very, very, very serious. Because ukifanya tu makosa ya kutoheal your inner child, ni hivyo kabisa. So let's go to the next question. How do I let past trauma affect my relationship?
How
do I let past trauma affect my relationship?
You know, I think you should not let past trauma affect your relationship. I like saying, leave the past in the past. Like if you start dating a new person, usianze kuuliza what she was doing before you.
Watu wanapenda kuuliza
You don't
body
want
counts
to know.
kwanza.
Wachana hiyo mambo ya usitake kujua.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you dealt with your past trauma in a positive way, it won't really affect your relationship. But if you didn't deal with it, it will affect it even subconsciously without you knowing.
Yeah.
So I think the best thing to do is to heal. Make sure you heal from your past trauma so that it doesn't affect your relationship.
True.
Because the moment you don't heal from it, it will affect your relationship.
Yeah.
You've ever wondered why there are people who usually have wanakasirikanga tu alafu hasira yao ni mbaya, unaona, unprocessed trauma sometimes huwa inajishow kama hasira, like mtu anakasirika ovyo ovyo hivyo. And then also trauma can make people build walls. Have you ever been getting to know someone and you're like, this person is not letting me in?
Yeah, it's like ameunda an armor.
An armor kabisa.
Yeah.
That's letting your trauma affect your relationship.
Even in relationships, msa anaunda an armor, like lazima kuprove guilty ndio akukubali.
Unaona?
Yeah.
I feel too ni about healing it first. Because once you heal it, and when you're a healed person, you move differently. You know that those things happen to you, and something like trauma, it's not something that will disappear. You'll carry it for the rest of your life. But once you've healed it, you'll carry it differently, and you won't let it affect you.
And we have said by accepting and expressing yourself.
Accepting and expressing.
That's how you start healing a wounded child.
Or any.
Yeah. So let's go to the next question. What happens when your inner child is wounded?
So, what happens when your inner child is wounded? You grow up to become an adult who's disconnected from people.
Yeah.
There's some inner childhood wounds like abandonment, and especially abandonment will make you feel disconnected from people. If you are abandoned as a child, these situations zenye you find people have grown up with maybe one parent being the co-parent, the primary caregiver. Maybe the dad left. Watu wa Twitter wanapendanga kujoke wakisema ati aliendea maziwa hakurudi. So you find yourself being connected with people is hard, because when you are growing up, that's something you never got to experience. And if it's something that you never learned at an early stage, when you grow up with it, hautakuwa nayo.
Ama you can say, maybe akona huyu parent mmoja, but this parent is also emotionally unavailable, physically unavailable. Ndo anaweza grow pia hivyo vile unasema.
Zote unaweza grow zote.
So you can continue.
Also, you develop toxic attachment styles. Yeah, like let's focus on abandonment, kidogo. If you're abandoned as a child, your attachment to people will be toxic. Maybe you'll grow up having an anxious attachment style.
Yeah.
Because once people are in your life, you're so anxious they're there. So it gives you some kind of peace. But at the same time, you're conscious and you feel like they can go at any particular time. Because your parents left you. They were never there for you. So you find people end up in toxic relationships because they don't want to leave, because wanajua wakitoka they won't find that kind of love anymore. Also, people become people pleasers. You want to make people happy ndo wasiende. You want them to wakae hapo ndo wasiende. Because you never got to heal.
Your inner child.
Inner child.
Yeah. So that's plain. Hata sifai kuongezea kitu hapo juu. Ni plain, like usipo to heal your inner child, you won't connect with your adulthood. Na that's plain, and I hope umeelewa vile amesema. So let's go to the next question. How do you heal from an emotional unavailable parent?
I think the first thing is forgiving them.
Which is hard.
It's so hard to forgive.
Yeah.
But carrying unforgiveness in your heart ni kama nimeze sumu alafu ningoje wewe ukufe. Si nikimeza sumu mimi ndio nitakufa. So forgiving people, just releasing them, forgive them. As hard as it is to forgive them, you just forgive them. Alafu sometimes you give them credit kidogo, because imagine when they had you, they didn't even know that
they are doing it. Yeah.
Alafu being a parent haikujangi na handbook.
Yeah, true.
It's freestyling, picking up things. So maybe they never got to know what to do with you when you were younger.
Yeah.
So you can't blame them all the time. You have to forgive them. Another thing, you have to learn and unlearn so many things.
Yeah, true.
You have to learn new things, and you have to unlearn so many things.
So I think people should use the forgiveness button a lot of times.
Yeah.
Because kuna vitu za kitambo you should unlearn.
Yeah.
And there are new things that you experience in life that you need to learn. Yeah, that's a good definition about that. Let's go to the next one. What happens to a child who is emotionally neglected?
What happens to a child who is emotionally neglected? When a child is emotionally neglected, as they grow up, they'll grow up into adults with a lot of issues. Yeah. And some of those issues can be depression, anxiety, and it comes back to attachment again, toxic attachment style. You know, when you're a child, the way your parents talk to you ukiwa mdogo inakuaffect sana. Ukifanya kitu mbaya, alafu your parent akwambie wewe ni mjinga sana. Unajua that registers in your subconscious mind.
True.
And utajipata as an adult, you grow up being self-conscious, and you grow up having low self-esteem kabisa juu ukuambiwa. Unapatanga watu wengine, they're so positive, they're so loving. Na ukigo back to their family, utapata huko kwao wanaambiwangwa kila ukiamka asubuhi, your parents tell you you're beautiful, you are smart, you are amazing. So I think if you never got to be told those kind of things, you have to speak to your inner child. You have to tell your inner child the things that they needed to hear at that age. If you needed to hear at a certain age that you're smart, you have to remind your inner child that you're smart. All those times that when you are likuita mjinga, how kukua mjinga, you're just a child. You have to remind yourself those things. Bure, if you're emotionally neglected, you become depressed. Ushaipatana na watu hii, this mtu ako like 10 years, but these children are so sad.
Very sad.
Very sad children. Unashangaa, how can someone so young be so sad? It's because of how they have grown up. Wazazi hawajali. Alafu kwanza in this generation, parents wanacha watoto wajiparent. Unapea mtoto tablet, wewe ukwangi. Ukifanya kazi yana watch.
It's like a distraction.
And that's not what they need. They need you to be present with them so that their emotions and their mind ikue sawa, ikue trained.
So I think what you said, as in train yourself new habits, and which is very, very hard, because utapata like ukianza kujitrain new habits, your old self itaanza kuvuta nyuma, itakutempt like unafanya nini, creep and it's very hard to start new habits, new behaviors, because unafunzwa since young.
And alafu change is very uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable. Wanasemanga kuna hii msemo, sijui ni msemo ama ni methali, wanasema samaki ni mkunje angali mbichi. So tuleta shule kitambo.
Tujasahau Kiswahili.
So I think that applies to here.
It does.
So change is very uncomfortable.
It is.
Just be ready to that battle. So let's.
Ukiona imeanza kuwa uncomfortable, you have to keep pushing, usiwache na usiwache the bad habits they creep in again.
So I had another question. Is bringing back the past toxic?
Okay, well, it depends. Okay, bringing up the past can be toxic. If you haven't healed from it, it will be toxic because it's like reopening a wound. Unaona sasa zile umepona, alafu na pick scab tena. It can be like that. And the past can come with so many overwhelming things that can hurt you.
True.
But bringing up the past can also not be toxic if you healed. you can look back at things in the past, hata unacheka, unashangaa nilikuwa nafanya nini at this point. So it just depends with how you view it and how you've advanced in your healing journey.
So maybe umesema it should be in a healed place so that you can review your past.
It should be in a healed
but you cannot review your past when you have not healed, because it's like pricking a wound that's closed.
It's reopening a wound.
So I think the audience wameelewa hiyo and wame take note. So to our last question, how do you let an emotional wound go?
Letting go is just a hard process. It's a hard process. But it all comes back to what we said in the beginning: accepting and expressing. Once you've accepted and expressed something, you're free. You have that space to kuiwachilia tu, and I think that's the only thing I can say
because
about it.
You can't let it go, because a trauma, it's something you live it like forever. It depends now, how do you view it? In a healing place, ama from a heart place. Kama it's from a heart place, itakuumiza forever.
I think unafaa, as much as those things hurt you, they were in your past. You have to get to a point in here you may accept, you may express, it affects me in a certain way. This happened, it did happen, I didn't have control over it. Maybe I did have control, but I didn't take it. Unakubali tu. Once umesha accept vitu, it becomes easier, because now you can take the steps to let go. But letting go is not easy.
It's not easy.
I usually say, just take a breath, just breathe it out. Vitu zingine si rahisi venye mtu anaweza fikiria.
So that's I think that's the end of this episode. I have learned a lot, kabisa. And although this is a huge topic, inafaa to record like an hour ama
a couple of sessions.
Ndio ieleweke. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
We are welcome. And maybe if you have a party shot, maybe you can malizia. Kuna kitu nasahau mahali? Hakuna. So maybe you can say your social media handles alafu nimalizie.
So my Instagram is _kimani.wanjiru, and also for the podcast it's at dailymentalfdn. So by the way, guys, I told you she does a mental health podcast the same as ours, and also she refers the audience as the tribe and I refer you guys as the clan. So I think tuko on the same path. So I hope I can invite kwa podcast yake. Nitakuinvite. Though yangu ni audio.
No problem. We also do audio.
Tuka
record and share some ideas pamoja. So guys, we also have our merchandise, our new merchandise nimevalia leo, and naona vile imeng'ara. So you guys should buy mazee to promote. We have our t-shirt going for 600 and our jumper going for 1200. And thank you so much for listening to this episode. And kama ameimba vizuri mcomment pale kwa nini, mcomment kwa comment section. Ameimba poa sana, tumpromote pia kwa muimbi. So thank you so much and cheers.
First and only, one and only.
Come to me, to you Savior, oh the boy.